Krishna, Preethi Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Guru and Gauranga ki jai. Thank you so much for joining every day and giving your beautiful association and chanting. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandvat Pranam, all glory to Srila Prabhupada. This is Neetu from Baltimore.
Hare Krishna, Neetu Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Guru and Gauranga ki jai. Thank you Mataji for joining every day and giving your beautiful association. Hare Krishna.
Shiva, all glory to Shiva. From Texas, Hare Krishna.
Did Terry ever show up?
Hare Krishna, please.
And the only thing about
Hare
that
Krishna,
is,
Garvedika Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Guru and Gauranga ki jai. Thank you Mataji for joining every day and giving a beautiful association. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Shivani. This is Shama.
Hare Krishna, Shama Gauri Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Guru and Gauranga ki jai. Thank you so much for joining and giving a beautiful association, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavad Pranam. This is Nitya Narasimha Das here, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, please accept my humble obeisances. Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Guru and Gauranga ki jai. Thank you so much for joining and giving a wonderful association. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandvat Pranam. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Shri Guru and Gauranga and all assembled devotees. Yashamati from Chicago.
Hare Krishna, Yashamati Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Guru and Gauranga ki jai. Thank you so much, Mataji, for joining and giving a beautiful association every day. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Is there anyone else?
Krishna Mataji, this is Sudevi from Virginia. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Sudevi, please accept my humble obeisances. Guru Maharaj ki jai, Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you so much for joining every day and you have beautiful chanting. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Shivani Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. This is Shama Supriya Devi Dasi from Houston, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Sham Supriya Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Guru and Gauranga ki jai. Thank you so much, Mataji, for joining and giving your wonderful association. Hare Krishna. Is there anybody else who would like to announce their name?
Hare Krishna Mataji, I am Jyoti from Chicago, Naperville.
Hare Krishna, Jyoti Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Guru and Gauranga ki jai. Thank you so much, Mataji, for joining and giving a beautiful association. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Is there anybody else who would like to announce their name? Hare Krishna, dear devotees, I welcome you all to Bhakti Sangha Japa conference call for this mid-morning session. I would like to share a quote with you all by Srila Prabhupada Ji. When our eyes are anointed with love of God, we can see Him everywhere. We have to develop our seeing power by developing love of Godhead. When one is sufficiently developed in Krishna consciousness, he can see the Lord every moment within his heart and everywhere, wherever he goes. San Francisco, June 27, 1971. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, I welcome you all to Bhakti Sangha Japa conference call for this mid-morning session. Today we are very fortunate to have Association of Our Grace, Preethi Vilasini Mataji. Mataji will be enlightening us on Sri Caitanya Bhagavata Khanda Chapter 9, verses 40 to 99 onwards. Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances, Preethi Vilasini Mataji. Thank you so much for giving your valuable time and your wonderful association this morning. We all are looking forward to hearing from you, Mataji. Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Guru and Gauranga ki jai. Please take over call, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you so much for your warm introduction and thank you all for your very, very wonderful association today.
Mataji, we can barely hear you, Mataji. Very low.
Is it better now?
Yes, Mataji, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Shivani Mataji. If there's any issues, just let me know. Okay. Thank you all so much for giving your time and association. So we are continuing our study of Sri Caitanya Bhagavata. This is Adi Khanda and it is chapter 9 onwards. Nityananda Prabhu's childhood pastimes and travel to holy places. And today we would be doing class from verse number 57, right? Okay, verse number 57. So I'll just pull it up on the screen and then we can get started. Okay, I hope you're able to see the screen. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yatkrapatamham Vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Nitanamne Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvichesha Shunyavadi Paschayate Deshtarini Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. My humble obeisances to all the Vaishnavas on the call. Thank you all so much for joining. We are reading from Sri Caitanya Bhagavata Adi Khanda chapter 9 verses 57 through must be 99. So we'll be covering a chunk of verses and all of these verses are different pastimes from the Ramayana, especially the Yuddha Khanda, which is a very interesting part of Ramayana. Okay, so that is going to be our content for today. So what we'll do is, as always, we'll read the verses from Sri Caitanya Bhagavat, explain them in parts, and then we'll proceed further. We'll refer to Valmiki Ramayana from time to time. So verse number 57. Vibhishana Kariya Anina Ramasthane Lankeshwara Abhisheka Karena Tathane. Someone in the role of Vibhishan was brought before Ramachandra and Ram performed his Abhishek or coronation, installing him as the king of Lanka. Commentary Gaudiya Bhashya by Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. A description of Vibhishan's arrival in Rama's camp and his coronation as the king of Lanka is found in Ramayana, Lanka, which is actually the Yuddha Khanda. So that would be chapter 18 verses 39 and chapter 19 verses 25 to 26. So the same Ramayana is also discussed in the Mahabharata in the Vanaparva 282.46 through 49. So this is the story of Vibhishan coming and performing Sharanagati to Lord Ramachandra. So in yesterday's class, His Grace Adigadadhar Prabhu, he spoke a lot about Sharanagati, and holding this point of Sharanagati, he spoke about deviations and then how important it is for one to surrender. So that was yesterday's class. So catching hold of the same point, again, the next verse of Caitanya Bhagavat talks about Vibhishana Sharanagati. Now, why are we seeing Vibhishana Sharanagati in Caitanya Bhagavat? Because we are looking at Lord Nityananda's childhood pastimes. So Lord Nityananda, when he was young, he would perform various pastimes of Krishna, Lord Ramachandra, Vamanadev, and so on. So in our previous week, we saw all the beautiful pastimes of Sri Krishna, right from his Vraja Leela till his Dwaraka Leela and so on. And then we also saw the pastimes that he performed as Vamanadev. After that, we started seeing pastimes performed as Lord Ramachandra and Lakshmana. Because Nitai is non-different from Lakshmana, it was very easy for him to perform all his pastimes that he had earlier performed when he was Lakshmana. So these pastimes have been discussed in great detail by our previous speakers. Some of the interesting pastimes that were spoken were about Vali. I think that was Vali and Sugriva. He befriending Sugriva and fighting with Vali. That was the content for yesterday's class. And before that, we also saw other interesting pastimes performed by Nityananda in the mood of Lakshmana. Like, let's see what else he had performed. This was the monkeys. Then we also saw that Nityananda spoke in the mood of Parashurama. We saw that Nityananda took the role of Lakshman, and they built a bridge. Yeah, this is something that we saw on the Monday's class, that someone that is Lord Nityananda taking the mood of Lakshmana and Ramachandra, they built a bridge across the Indian Ocean going all the way to Lanka. Lord Ram getting angry with the ocean god, and then he releasing the astra, and then the ocean god coming out in fear and surrendering to Lord Ram. That is something we saw. Then we saw he befriending the So in today's class, we are starting off with the Sharanagati of Vibhishan. So where does this Sharanagati of Vibhishan actually come in the Valmiki Ramayana? It is seen in the Yuddha Kanda of Valmiki Ramayana. So Vibhishana Sharanagati is considered as the essence of the entire Ramayana. So if you churn out the entire Ramayana and find out what is the essence of this entire scripture, then you can understand that it is in fact the surrender of Vibhishan to be the entire essence of Valmiki Ramayana. And in that surrender of Vibhishan, what is it that is the essence of the surrender of Vibhishan Ramayana? There is one particular verse that was spoken by Sri Ramachandra, Sakrideva Prapannoyam Tavasmiti Yachate Abhyam Sarvada Tasmai Dadami Vratam Mama. So that particular verse is considered as the essence of the entire Vibhishana Sharanagati. So first let's see the pastime of Vibhishana Sharanagati. I have to also offer my prayers to Lord Chaitanya before we start. So I'll just offer a couple of prayers and then we'll get into the topic of Vibhishan Sharanagati. Ajanulambita-bhujau kanakavadhatau sankirtanaikapitaro kamalayatakshau vishwambarau dvijavarau yugadharmapalau vande jagatpriyakarau karunavatarau jayati jayati deva krishna chaitanya chandro jayati jayati kirtistasya nitya pavitra जयति जयति भृत्यस्तस्य विश्वेश्वमूर्तेर् जयति जयति नृत्यं तस्य सर्वप्रियाणाम् कूजन्तं राम रामेति मधुरं मधुराक्षरम् आरुह्य कविताशाखां वन्दे वाल्मीकिकोकिलं वाल्मीकिर्मुनिसिंहस्य कवितावनचारिणः शृण्वन् रामकथानाथं को नयाते परां गतिं वेदवेद्ये परे पुंसे जाते दशरथात्मजे वेदप्राचेतसा दासेत् साक्षात् रामायणात्मना अंजनानंदनं वीरं जानकी शोकनाशनं कपीशमक्षहन्तारं वन्दे लङ्काभयङ्करं मनोजवं मारुततुल्यवेगं जितेन्द्रियं बुद्धिमतं वसिष्ठं वातात्मजं वानरयूथमुख्यं श्रीरामदूतं शिरसा नमामि आञ्जनेयमदिपाटनालनं काञ्चनाद्रिकमनीयविग्रहं पारिजाततरमूलवासिनं भावयामि भवमाननन्दनं यत्र यत्र रघुनाथकीर्तनं तत्र तत्र कृतमस्तकाञ्जलिं बाष्पवारि परिपूर्णलोचनं मारुतिं नमत राक्षसान्तकम्. Okay, so this is all about Hanuman. Okay, this entire class is about Hanuman and about Vibhishan as well. So if you look at the Ramayana, after Hanuman had burnt Lanka and he returned to the mainland, giving the news to Lord Ramachandra that Sita has been found, meanwhile in Lanka, Ravana was very worried because a Vanara had come into his most protected city of Lanka, and the Vanara managed to burn down the entire city. So he was very worried. He called out to all his ministers and they had a big meeting as to assess what would be the next steps, how they should protect their kingdom and how they should get ready in case there is a war that is waged by Lord Ramachandra. So when all this meeting was going on, at that time, some of the demoniac supporters of Ravana, they told Ravana that whatever you have done is perfectly fine. It is good that you actually kidnapped Sita, and we all support you, and we will keep Sita with us, and you don't worry about Lord Ramachandra. After all, he's an ordinary human being, so you can easily win over him in the war. So there were many demoniac supporters of Ravana who were encouraging whatever Ravana had done. However, there were some others who thought that it was actually a problem. And interestingly, both of Ravana's brothers actually had some objections. Kumbhakarna, who was one of the brothers of Ravana, he actually decided to give some good advice to Ravana, telling him that actually he should return Sita. And he acted without thinking. Ravana took hasty decisions. But however, Ravana failed to agree to the words of Kumbhakarna. And Kumbhakarna, also being a very loyal brother of Ravana, though he objected, he still decided to support Ravana in his dealings. So he said, okay Ravana, you're my brother, so whatever it may be, whether you have taken Sita, you have not taken Sita, whatever the situation may be, I will always stand by you because I am your brother, and I'll be loyal to you, and I will go to war on your behalf. So this was Kumbhakarna's attitude. However, the other brother, who is considered very saintly, was Vibhishan. So Vibhishan, he actually objected. He objected to whatever Ravana was doing, and he told Ravana that I really want to give you some good counsel. I'm your well-wisher. So, when someone says that they are your well-wisher, it's not that they would just blindly listen to whatever you say, right? They would like to correct you if you're going wrong so that you don't get involved in further entanglements. So being a very nice counselor, Vibhishan, being the younger brother, he just told his brother Ravana that you've gone too far. I think you should give back Sita. Since Sita has come to Lanka, we have been facing several problems. So the best solution for you is to, when now that the Vanara has come and he's burnt Lanka and he's gone, understand that your enemy Rama has a lot of strength. Okay, and Vibhishan says, when we understand that our enemy is very powerful, we should not act too over smart, okay, thinking that we can accomplish anything. So Vibhishan says, I've heard a lot about Lord Ramachandra, so he's not easy, and the best solution for you is to give away Sita to Ram. After all, Sita belongs to Ram, she doesn't belong to you. So he gives such wonderful words of advice. At that time, Indrajit, who's the son of Ravana, he immediately stands up and he objects. Just like how Duryodhan was objecting whatever good counsel Vidura was giving to Dhritarashtra. So similarly, Indrajit, who's the son of Ravana, he got up and he said, no, stop this. What sort of uncle are you? He tells Vibhishan. Vibhishan was his father's younger brother. So he said, you are no good relative. You're not doing us any good. You have no heroism, you have no strength, you have no prowess, you're unfit to be called as a demon, as a Rakshasa. You don't have any such qualities. So Indrajit, he started insulting Vibhishan. And hearing this, Vibhishan was very upset. He said, no, Indrajit, you're very immature. You're a young boy. You don't understand these complications. So don't get involved in this. However, Ravana, he got up and he said, Vibhishan, you are a disgrace to our family. It is easy for one to live with a furious, envious snake, but it is very, very difficult to live with an enemy who's in the guise of a relative. So he couldn't hear the good counsel of Vibhishan, and he considered Vibhishan to be his enemy, and he kicked, he disgraced, he insulted Vibhishan. So at that time, Vibhishan, he rose up. With his associates, he got up and he decided to actually leave the country of Lanka. And what did he decide? He just didn't decide to leave Lanka and go somewhere. He decided to go and take shelter of Lord Ramachandra. So that is Vibhishana Sharanagati. There's a very beautiful verse in the Valmiki Ramayana. Abravicha tada vakyam jata krodho vibhishanaha Antarikshagata Shriman Bhrataram Rakshasadipam. Hearing those harsh words from Ravana, Vibhishan, who was on the side of justice, holding a mace in his hand by his mystic power, soared high into the sky along with 4 other demons who were loyal to him. So with 4 of his associates, Vibhishan, he rises high into the sky and he begins to fly, because Rakshasas in those days, they had the power to fly across oceans. They didn't need airplanes. They could just rise up and fly. So he just rose up and he flew across the ocean, because he knew that Ram and his entire Vanara Sen were stationed on the shores of the Indian Ocean. So it's interesting, Valmiki, he addresses Vibhishan as Antariksha Gata Shriman. Shriman means one who is complete in all opulence. Okay, now Vibhishan here is a person who has left everything. He has left his kingdom, he has left his relatives, he has left all the wealth, he left everything. He just left everything in a second. He just gave it up in a split second. He didn't think twice. What will happen to my house? What will happen to the money that I've collected? Or what will happen to my, my future generations? He didn't think about anything. He just left everything. He just left everything in a split second. And Valmiki celebrates him as Shriman. Why Shriman? Because he's now going towards the highest opulence that one can have, which is the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. So Vibhishana only now, according to Valmiki, has actually developed all the opulence. He's gotten all the opulence because he's going to take shelter at the lotus feet of Lord Ramachandra. So he flies, and meanwhile, Lord Ramachandra and the Vanara Sena, they had camped. They had all begun camping in this shores of the ocean. And at that time, the Vanaras like Sugriva, Hanuman, Jambavan, some of them, they all were walking along the shore. So while they were walking along the shore, suddenly Vibhishan appeared in the sky. And looking at Vibhishan in the sky, immediately Sugriva identified him. He said, "Oh, this seems to be a Rakshasa. He must be from Ravana's camp. Oh, who is he?" So they were all very worried. Sugriva was telling Hanuman, "See, he seems to be a demon. He has so many weapons," because Vibhishan was carrying his mace, and all these demons appear scary. So maybe they are the ones who have been sent by Ramana. So the monkeys, the Vanaras, they began discussing with each other. But then when Vibhishan saw that there was a lot of clamor, everyone was discussing their identity, he stopped them, and with a thundering voice he said, "Nivedayata mam Shipram Ragavaya Mahatmane Sarvalokasharanyaya Vibhishanam Upastitham." So he says, "Nivedayata mam Shipram." That means immediately he says, Nivedayata. Okay, you're asking the Lord to accept you. That is Nivedayam, right? So he asks Lord Ramachandra to accept him. Mam, me, Shipram. Shipram means quickly, immediately. Because the principle of Sharanagati or surrender is that it should be done immediately. Okay, you should not keep waiting. Oh, will I surrender to Krishna? Should I take a guru? Okay, I'll wait for another 20 years. Then I will take a guru. Then I will surrender. So if we do that, then we are wasting a lot of time. Surrender should be done immediately according to the Ramayana. The commentators say Shipram is very, very important in terms of surrender. There are many stories that talk about how one should never postpone one's surrender to the Supreme Lord and taking a guru. As soon as you have some clarity, you should go for it. Okay, so now Vibhishan, after being insulted by his brother, he could understand that his brother would not hear to any good counsel. So he wanted to get rid of his brother's association and take proper guidance and surrender to the Lord. So as soon as he stood in the sky, the first word he said is Nivedayata, accepting me. Okay, ask the Lord to accept me. If he had used a different word, it would have looked like, he's a demon and he is coming to fight with the Lord. But he chooses his words very wisely. He says, Nivedayata mam Shipram. Who should accept him? That he very clearly says, Ragavaya Mahatmani. Raghava means, of course, it's Lord Ramachandra. And Raghava specifically means a descendant of the Raghu dynasty. So why does he use the word Raghava? He uses the word Raghava because that Supreme Lord, who's inaccessible even to the Vedic literature, is very, very difficult to be described even by the Vedas. That Supreme Lord has taken birth in a human-like form in the dynasty of Raghu. So he's come really close. He's very accessible to me now. That is what Vibhishan is indicating. I want to take shelter of Raghava. And this Raghava, is he an ordinary person? Is he just some random human being who has taken birth in the dynasty of Raghu? No. He says he's Mahatma. What sort of Mahatma? He's indeed the Paramatma. So Vibhishan is able to identify all of this in this verse. He says, Nivedayata mam Shipram Raghavaya Mahatmani Sarvaloka Sharanyaya. Why should he specifically surrender only to Ram? He can surrender to anybody who's there, right? Why should he tell that I want to surrender to Raghava, who's Mahatma? He says that because only the Supreme Lord is actually worthy of surrender. He is the only one whom one should take Sharanagati of. Okay, so he says Sarvaloka Sharanyaya. The only one capable of giving shelter to all the three worlds is Lord Ramachandra. So I want to surrender to him. And who am I? He describes Vibhishanam Upasthitam. It is me, Vibhishana. My name is Vibhishana, and I am stationed here, waiting for Ram to come and surrender to him. So like that, he speaks very wise words. And the minute he pronounces this wonderful verse, Sugriva, he hurries with some of the Vanaras into Lord Ramachandra's camp, and he gives the information that the brother of Ravana has now come. Now there is a big discussion among the Vanaras whether to accept Vibhishan or not to accept Vibhishan. So all this is described in the Ramayana in great detail. We are not going to go into it because we won't have time. We have lots of pastimes to cover today. So there is a huge discussion that happens in the camp, and then everyone, Sugriv says, no, you can't trust him. He's after all, he's the brother of your enemy. How can you trust such a person? Some others say, oh, he could be a spy. Angada says, maybe you should give him an examination and test him to see if he's authentic. So like that, different people, they give different ideas. But then there is one person who refutes all of this, that is Hanuman. He says, no. Actually, Vibhishan is a very nice person. I've been to Lanka personally, and I can vouch for this. Because when Hanuman's tail was burnt, it was only Vibhishan who actually stopped that. Vibhishan said, actually, his tail was burnt, but he tried to stop the demons by telling that Duta, a messenger, should not be treated like this. So he had a lot of dharma, and Hanuman knew very well that Vibhishan was not only dharmic, he was also a very nice devotee. So Hanuman was the only person who said, no, he's actually a very nice person. Vibhishana is very, very nice, though he's the brother of Ravana. And Lord Ramachandra heard all the Vanaras speak. At that time, he speaks a very wonderful verse, which I said in the beginning of this class, that is Sakrideva Prapannaya Tavasmi iti achate abhayam sarvatha tasmai dadami etad vratam mama. So this is one of the versions of this verse. There's another version of the same verse that is there in Valmiki Ramayana, which is Sakrideva Prapannoyam Tavasmi iti achate abhayam sarva bhutebhyah. That is a little change, okay, in the verse. Dadami etad vratam mama. It is, the meaning is the same, but the same verse is related in different versions. So what does the verse mean? It says, he who seeks refuge unto me even once, Sakrit eva prapannoyam, even once, okay, Sakrit eva prapannoyam, Tavasmi iti achade, I am yours. If someone says, Abhayam, I give Abhayam to them. That means I give protection unto them. Sarvada tasmai, or Sarva bhutebhyah, for anyone. Let him be anybody. Let him be a monkey, let him be a donkey, let him be a cockroach, whatever it is. Abhayam sarvada tasmai, or Abhayam sarva bhutebhyah, dadami etad vratam mama. I give that shelter, and this is my solemn vow, or it is my firm determination. So like that, Lord Ramachandra, he says this. This is also called as Ramacharama Shloka. Very famous, very, very famous. It's quoted oftentimes, just like how Krishna says, Sarvadharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshishyami ma shuchaha. So Lord Krishna, he also gives a similar, he also speaks a similar verse, saying that anyone who surrenders unto me will be taken care of, do not fear, right? So give up all religions and surrender unto
Hare Krishna Mataji. I'm so sorry. There is like a message that some people have a low voice. They're thinking that it is a little low. And also it's breaking in between, Mataji, now and then. Some words I was missing. Like when you're talking about how Vibhishana mentioned Raghu. That time also it was breaking, Mataji. Some important points were missing for me.
Okay, let me do something.
For us, it was okay, Mataji. Hare Krishna Dandavat Pranam. For we could actually hear through. So, not sure, Mataji.
Yeah,
it is not
little,
very
little
loud.
it is breaking. Yeah, it is breaking.
It's not very loud, but
and
it is good to decently audible, Mataji, for us. Hare Krishna.
Okay. Or should I switch to headphones? I can do that. If you give me a second, I can.
Sure, Mataji.
Sorry for the delay. We might be going a little over time because we have just finished one verse. I'm sorry about this. We have 40 verses to cover. I try to be as fast as possible. I'm muting this line.
Can't hear you, Mataji. We cannot hear you.
Mataji, but there was some plug-in sound, but other than that, we can't hear anything.
Okay, let's see.
Yeah, like that only it was good, but like little low and it was breaking in between. We can try without headsets, Mataji.
Okay, would this work?
Yes, Mataji, we could hear.
Would this work?
Yes, Mataji, we could hear that. Mataji, you have to increase the volume of your computer. Oh shit. Can you hear us, Mataji?
I can hear you, but can you hear me?
Yes, it's perfect. Please continue, Mataji.
Okay. Okay, so we were talking about Vibhishana Sharanagati and Lord Ramachandra's Charma Shloka, which is Satyadeva Prapanoyam, and we were comparing it to Lord Krishna's Charma Shloka, which is Sarvadharman Parityaja Mamekam Sharanam Vraja. So after Lord Ramachandra spoke this verse, he comes out from the camp and then he accepts Vibhishana. Okay, he comes out and he gives his darshan to Vibhishana. Vibhishana descends from the sky and he falls down and he takes shelter of Lord Ramachandra. Valmiki Ramayana is actually very beautiful because every verse that is spoken at every minute has so much value. Every word that is chosen by these wonderful devotees and the words that are spoken by Lord Ram is so pertinent. Ramachandra, he immediately accepts Vibhishan and then he lifts him up and very lovingly he asks him, "Oh Vibhishan," he understands that Vibhishan has come to surrender and he accepts him and he says, "Tell me the strengths of the demons." He doesn't say, "Tell me the strength of your brother, your family, or tell me how Lanka is protected, your kingdom Lanka is protected." He doesn't say anything like that. He talks to Vibhishan addressing Ravana and the Lankavasis and Lanka in third person, saying that you are now mine and tell me about our enemy. So like that, they immediately bond. That is the nature of Lord Ram. When he accepts wholeheartedly. He doesn't think that, oh, maybe, how, I should always be cautious. He doesn't think like that. He just accepts them wholeheartedly. And he says that, tell me the strengths and weaknesses of the demons. And then they have a discussion and they come up with a strategy. And right after that, Lord Ramachandra, since he has accepted Vibhishan so wholeheartedly, at this point, Lord Ramachandra also shows his supremacy. He immediately tells Lakshmana, who's standing there, "Bring water from the ocean and let's consecrate Vibhishan as the king of Lanka." So it's interesting that Lord Ramachandra has not even crossed the ocean. He's not waged the war. He has not done anything. But even before that, he has given the kingdom to Vibhishan.
So it's very rare that Lord Rama, he would constantly, it's very rare that Rama would show his supremacy. Lord Krishna, every pastime of his, you would make out that, oh, this is the Supreme Lord, he's demonstrating his prowess. But Lord Ramachandra was very guarded. He wanted to be celebrated just as an ordinary son of Dasharath. But he never showed his supremacy, very few times. Like when he gave moksha to Jatayu, he said, Jatayu, go back to Godhead. I mean, only the Supreme Lord can tell you that, right? So like that, very few instances. One is Jatayu moksha and the other one is consecration of Vibhishana. He shows that he's the Supreme Lord, and if he has taken a decision, it will come through. So he had already decided Vibhishana is going to be the king of Lanka. So that is the consecration or the coronation of Vibhishana on the shores of the Indian Ocean that was performed by Lakshmana and Lord Ramachandra. Actually, chiefly performed by Lakshmana, because at this point, Lord Ramachandra, he was on exile technically. He was not allowed to do certain rites that a king can do. So that is the reason he asked Lakshmana to actually bring the waters for the Abhishek of Vibhishana and making him the king of Lanka. So that is our first verse, and this entire pastime was enacted by whom? By little Nitai. Nitai was enacting this entire pastime, and this is our verse number 57. And on Bhakti Sangha itself, we have done Vibhishana Sharanagati as separate classes, and we have done general Sharanagati, the theme of Sharanagati through the Ramayana in different classes. So you can search the history, and there are plenty of classes on this. So I will stop with Vibhishana Sharanagati here, though it's a very vast topic. We'll go on to the next verse of Caitanya Bhagavata. Kona Shishu Bole Muni Ainun Ravana Shakti Shilahani Se Sambara Lakshmana. One boy said, I am the mighty Ramana. Now I'm releasing the Shakti Shela weapon. Stop it if you can, Lakshmana. So the word hani from the ha dhatu means to release, to throw, to beat, or to hit. The word samvara means to stop, to control, to check, to save, to halt, to obstruct, to suppress, or to curb the movement of. So what happened? Nitai was enacting this pastime. One voice said, I am the mighty Ravana. Now I'm leaving the Shakti Shela weapon. Stop it if you can, Lakshmana. So this is a pastime of Ravana releasing the Shakti weapon on Lakshmana. Then what happened? Etabali Padma Pushpa Marila Philiya Lakshmanera Bhave Prabhu Padila Dhaliya. Saying this, the boy threw a lotus flower at Nityananda. He didn't throw an arrow, obviously. And in the mood of Lakshmana, who fell down to the ground? Nityananda fell down to the ground. The phrase Padma Pushpa refers to the imitation of the Shakti Shela weapon. A description of Lakshmana acting unconscious due to being hit by the Shakti Shela weapon is found in the Ramayana in the Lanka Khanda or the Yuddha Khanda 101 chapter verses 28 to 36. Muchita haila prabhu Lakshmanera bhave jagaya chalaya sabata gunahi jage. After the Lord in the mood of Lakshmana fell unconscious, all the boys tried in vain to revive him. The words Jagaya Chauyala refers to the boyfriends of Nityananda who were acting as the best of monkeys. So what happened? The Shakti Shela weapon was released, and then who fell unconscious? Nitai fell unconscious. All the boys around, they were trying to lift him. Pramarthe dhatu nahi sakala sharire kandye sakala sishu hatadiya shrire. When they found no symptom of life remained in the body of Nityananda, they all held their heads and began to cry. The first line of this verse indicates that his body was devoid of consciousness. So Nitai really got involved in the character and he really fainted, and there were no symptoms of consciousness. He was completely devoid of movement and wounded at heart. How sweet. So one boy threw a lotus flower and Nitai got wounded at heart and he fell down. The word pramartha dhatu refers to the consciousness or life. So he appeared to be still, because he really got involved in the character. After all, it's his own character, right? It's the same Lakshmana. Shoni pita mata dai ailas satvat re dekhaye Putrera Natniya Sharire. The Lord's father and mother came running there and also observed that there was no sign of life in their son. Oh God, he really got involved. Murchita yadone pandita bhumi te dekhi sarva loka ashi haila vismite. They then also fell to the ground unconscious. Everyone who saw this tragedy were struck with wonder. So the parents of Nitai also fell down unconscious. Sakala vrittanta tabe kahila shugana ke ha bole bhunjilana bhavera karana. As the boys described the entire incident, someone said, I understand why he's unconscious. The word bhavera refers to his unconscious and fainted condition. So one boy understood, I know why he's unconscious. Purve dasharatha bhava eka natavara rama vanavasi shone edena kalevara. Previously, one great actor played the role of Dasharath, and when he heard that Rama had left for the forest, he left his body. The word Natavara refers to one who is expert in acting or the best actor. The description of Dasharath leaving the body out of grief due to Rama's exile to the forest is found in Ramayana. So this boy who understood why Nitai was really unconscious, he said, oh, maybe it's a similar situation like when Dasharath heard that Lord Ramachandra went to the forest, he gave up his body like that. Nitai got so involved in the character. Maybe that is the reason. Then, ke ha bole kacha kachi acha yacha chaola yala hanumana aushade dile. Someone else said, there is a boy dressed as Hanuman. If he gives him medicine, he will be cured. So because according to the pastime, what happens is when the Shakti weapon was released on Lakshman by Ravana, he falls unconscious. And so now Nitai has got so involved in the character that now Nitai is unconscious. So what could be the solution, right? The solution is whatever solution is there in the Ramayana, if you employ that solution, obviously Nitai will get revived. So what is the solution that was employed in the Ramayana? Hanuman was asked to go and bring the Aushadagiri, or the mountain that had the herbs for revival. So someone else said, there is a boy dressed as Hanuman. If he gives him medicine, he will be cured. So let's see the commentary. If Hanuman gives him medicine, he'll be cured was spoken by Sushena, the king of the monkeys in Ramayan's Lanka Khanda or Yuddha Khanda, chapter 101, verses 29 to 31. Who is the Sushena? Sushena is the father of Tara. Who is Tara? Tara is the wife of Vali, who was later the wife of Sugriva. And there's in other Puranas, not in the Bhagavatam, but in some other Puranas, there's the description of Tara coming from the ocean of milk, while churning the ocean of milk. And Sushena actually accepts Tara as his daughter at that point in time. So Sushena is the Dr. Vanara. He's the doctor of all the Vanaras. He's also the father-in-law of Sugriva, and he's also the father of Taradevi. Okay, so he being the doctor, chief doctor, he says, he speaks the statement. He tells, if Hanuman brings the Aushadagiri from the Himalayas, then Lakshmana will be revived. So holding on to the same point, one of the boys say, oh, here is one boy dressed as Hanuman. If he goes and brings the medicine, he will help Nitai to be revived. Purve Prabhu Shikhaya Chilena Sabare Padila Tomara Vidi Kandila Amare. Before the incident, the Lord had instructed his friends, when I fall unconscious, you should all gather around me and cry. Okay, so this was all a part of the play. So Nitai was not only the actor, he was also the director. So he said how exactly everyone should react when he falls unconscious. So all the boys gathered around and they began to cry. Then what happened? The boy who was dressed as Hanuman, he was dispatched. The rest of them were sitting around and crying. Then what happened? Shane Ravi Lambe Phata Haya Hanuman Nake Dile Aushada Asibe Mora Prana. After a while, send Hanuman for some medicine. I will recover when he puts the medicine onto my nose. So Nityananda had already given all these instructions. So the boys were remembering the instructions one by one. Nija bhave prabhu matra haila achetana deki bada vikala haila sishugana. When the Lord fell unconscious in his own mood, the boys were all bewildered. The words Nija bhave refers to the mood of his plenary portion, Lakshmana, the incarnation of Mahasankarshana. The word vikala refers to one whose intelligence is lost. In other words, one who's overwhelmed, unsteady, senseless, illusioned, or powerless. So this was the situation of Nitai. He had already given instructions to the boys. Now the boys began to execute the order. Channa hoile na sabe, siksha nahi spure, utha bhai bali matra, kande uchay sware. Because they were confused, they could not remember the Lord's instructions. They simply cried loudly, "Oh brother, please get up, please get up." The word channa means chana means mad, forgetful, unintelligent, and ignorant. The word siksha refers to the instruction. Send Hanuman to bring medicine and hold that before my nose. This was given by Lord Nityananda Prabhu, but the boys forgot and they cried and there was a lot of commotion. Loka muke shuni kata haila smarana Hanumana kache sishu chaila lakhakana. But when the boys heard the people's comment, they remembered Nityananda's instruction and the boy dressed as Hanuman immediately went for the medicine. Are eka sishupate tapasvira veshe phala mula hanumare ashamshe. Before we go to this verse, we will stop with verse number 71 and I will discuss this verse from the Ramayana. Okay, then we'll do from 72 to 99 after we discuss this from the Valmiki Ramayana. So, the pastime that you saw right now was that Nitai took on the mood of Lakshman and he fell down unconscious. Why did he fall down unconscious? He fell down unconscious because Ravana released the Shakti Shila weapon. Okay, so put this in your mind. So a weapon was released by Ravana. Let's go back to Ramayana for now. Nitai has performed this entire pastime. Now shift your focus to Ramayana. What was happening in the Ramayana? Ravana released the Shakti weapon. It fell on Lakshmana and Lakshmana fell down unconscious. What was the solution to revive him? Sushena said, ask Hanuman to go and bring Aushadagiri from the Himalayas and revive Lakshmana. So Hanuman leaves to go to Aushadagiri to bring the medicine. Okay, so this is the scene in the Ramayana. Now let's focus on what exactly is discussed in the Ramayana. So speaking about this Aushadagiri or this herb mountain, Sanjeevani, you have all heard about this thing, right? The Sanjeevana Parvat, the mountain that has the herbs. This is seen in the Himalayan region. So Hanuman was dispatched to bring this mountain. So that is the discussion here. Actually, there is a mention of the Sanjeevani Parvat or this mountain of herbs at least 3 times in the Ramayana and the Yuddha Kanda. The first time that this mountain is mentioned or these herbs are mentioned, not even the mountain, the description of these herbs are mentioned is by Sushena himself, who's the chief doctor. When the Nagastra was actually released by Indrajit against Ram and Lakshman. Okay, this is the first time the Aushadagiri or the mountain containing specific herbs is mentioned in the Ramayana. When was it? It was when Indrajit released what? The Nagastra. Okay, Nagastra is the serpent astra. So he releases the Nagastra against whom? Against both Rama and Lakshman. And what happened that time? Both of them fainted. Okay, both Rama and Lakshman fainted. But Ramachandra was a little faster, quicker in gathering his consciousness and he could get up. But however, Lakshmana was very still. He was not able to get up and Ram got really worried for Lakshman. At that time, Sushena was the one who said that actually, if you want to revive them, he tells that there is one particular hill that has all these medicines. At that point in time, Sushena's memory goes back to the ocean of milk. Okay, in the ocean of milk, he says that in the ocean of milk, there are these 3 medicines, okay, near a hill. If you go there, you can actually get these different medicines, these different herbs. Santanakarani, Vishalyakarani, Sandhini, these are all the different names of the herbs. Okay, so he mentions these herbs and he tells you, go there and you have to get it. Okay, but when we are all thinking, how can we go to the ocean of milk? He doesn't talk about Himalayas at this time. Okay, he says in the ocean of milk, these 3 herbs are there, you go and bring it. Okay, that's how Sushena first proposes. When the very first time Indrajit releases Nagastra, okay, he proposes this idea. But luckily for them, at that time, someone else came to their rescue. Hanuman didn't have to go and bring this mountain and all that, okay, for the first time. Who came to the rescue is the one who is the enemy of the Nagas or the snakes. Who's the enemy of the snakes? Anyone wants to take a guess?
Garuda.
So whenever there is an Nagastra, who can release it is Garuda. Okay, so that's why when you have fear of snakes, whom you should call out to Garuda. This is the tradition. So immediately, Garuda, who's Garuda? Garuda is the carrier of the Lord, right? So when the Lord desires, see, Lord has Satya Sankalpa Shakti. That means when he thinks of something, that will appear. Okay, he doesn't have to make an extra endeavor. At this point in time, Ramachandra, he was playing the role of a human being. So he specifically didn't call out to Garuda or something. But Garuda is the eternal servitor of Lord Ram. So the minute Garuda saw that my Lord is being struck by Nagastra, Garuda got really worried and he came running. Okay, actually Ram was a little at this point, again the commentators say that Ram didn't want Garuda to come there and reveal his supremacy because he was trying to play the role of Dasharath's son. Okay, he was trying to keep his supremacy covered. But then Garuda appears there on scene because he was bewildered. Garuda couldn't tolerate this. So he comes and the minute Garuda comes, immediately both the brothers are released of the Nagastra. Garuda circumambulates the Lord and he goes away. And there's a small introduction that is happening between Garuda and Ram. Like Ram acts like he doesn't know who Garuda is. And there's a sweet drama that happens between Ram and Garuda. But then Garuda does his job and he leaves. Okay. So the first time, Hanuman, he doesn't go to bring the Aushadagiri. Okay, so problem solved. Then what happens? Again, Indrajit, he comes back the next day and there is a big war. This time, Indrajit, he releases the Brahmastra in the Ramayana. Now, Brahmastra is an astra that is given by Brahma himself. Okay, so because this is a vara or a boon given by Brahma himself, Ram and Lakshman, when the astra is released, they tell each other, especially Ramchandra tells Lakshmana, actually we have to submit to this astra. To Ramachandra is beyond the Brahmastra. He respects the Brahmastra. Okay. Actually, even when Hanuman was arrested by Indrajit using the Brahmastra, and when he was taken to the assembly of Ravana, Hanuman willingly, okay, he submits himself to the astras. So like that, Ramachandra and Lakshmana, both of them, they willingly surrender, and the Brahmastra hits Rama and Lakshmana. Okay, once the Brahmastra hits Rama and Lakshmana and they are in swoon, at that time, now there is a big scene that happens. Several Vanaras were all struck along with Rama and Lakshmana by the Brahmastra. Okay, there were tons of people. Because when this Indrajit, he shoots the Brahmastra, there was a huge shower of arrows and a huge army of monkeys or the Vanaras, all of them fell down unconscious. And among them were the army leaders like Sugriva, Nila, Angada, Jambavan. All of them were struck down by this horrible, arrows that were shot by Indrajit. 67 crores of powerful Vanaras were struck down by the Brahmastra of Indrajit. This is the quote from Ramayana. So you can imagine the power of Brahmastra. And who all was struck? All the Vanaras, almost. It looked like the entire Vanara army was wiped out, including Rama and Lakshman. So Indrajit was very happy because he thought he finished everybody, and Ravana didn't even have to come and do a big battle against Ram, and Ram was finished. This was the impression that Indrajit had. when he saw that everyone was unconscious. So he goes back, Indrajit goes back to his father and he tells that the army is finished. Okay, 67 crores of them are all dead. Okay, he goes and he gives this grand statement. And then Ravana is very happy, and then Sita is taken in a Pushpak Vimana to show the battlefield. And then she's shown that, look, your husband and his brother, both of them are now dead. So Sita is wailing at this point in time. She's unable to believe her eyes. All this happens in the Ramayana. And then this Trijata, who's one of the caretakers, demonous caretakers of Sita, she tells, no, don't believe all this. Because I still see life symptoms in them. I don't think just by shooting this Brahmastra, your husband is going to die. So she convinces Sita that nothing has happened to Lord Ramachandra. And of course, Sita is taken back and she's reassured that nothing has happened to them. At this point, there is Vibhishan, who's a little away from the Brahmastra impact. Okay, so when this Brahmastra was shot and these multitude of arrows actually struck a huge amount of the Vanara army, Vibhishana was at a distance. So Vibhishana, he came running to the scene where everyone was fallen. He heard that even Ram and Lakshman were actually shot by these arrows. So he comes running and he starts calling out to all these Vanaras to see if anyone was conscious. At that time, when he goes near Jambavan, he sees that Jambavan, the great bear, the old personality, he was somewhat conscious. Okay? He was not fully conscious, but somewhat conscious. He was able to relate and speak. By this time, he was also a little old, so his vision was also impacted by the Astra, and he couldn't clearly see Vibhishan. Okay? But from his voice, he could understand this is Vibhishan. So when Vibhishan came to him and inquired, what happened? What happened? Are you all okay? Now we can make this okay. He was trying to encourage them to get up and, become normal, like, get rid of this unconscious state and come back to life. But at that time, Jambavan, he tells, oh, I think you are Vibhishan, right? You're Vibhishan who's trying to assess the situation. Vibhishan, can you do me a favor? Can you see if Hanuman is alive? This is kind of surprising to Vibhishan. Vibhishan is like, what sort of question is that? I thought you would say, can you see if Ram and Lakshman are alive, right? Because they are the heroes and they are the main people in the war. If Ram and Lakshman are gone, then the entire war is over. Why are you specifically asking about Hanuman, he asks. Then Jambavan, he says that the reason I'm asking about Hanuman is that if Hanuman is alive, then everyone else can be alive. Because only Hanuman has the capability of bringing back everyone to life. And he's the son of Vayu, Pranavayu, right? So if he is there, everyone's Pranavayu will be installed. So please check if Hanuman is alive. And interestingly, at that time, even Hanuman was not in the scene. Hanuman was along with Vibhishan in a different place fighting. And he also joins Vibhishan. And then he hears this question by Jambavan. He goes and falls at the feet of Jambavan. And he says, my dear Jambavan, I'm very much alive. I'm here. Tell me what I should do. At this point, who gives Hanuman the instruction to go and bring Aushadagiri is Jambavan. It is not Sushena. Sushena gave instruction first time. Then Indrajit released Nagastra. But who came at that time? Garuda came and released them. Hanuman didn't go to bring Aushadagiri. Second time, what happened? The instruction came from Vibhishan to go and bring Aushadagiri from the Himalayas. At this point, Sushena was also unconscious. So the doctor himself had fallen down. So the doctor could not give instructions. But 3 people were conscious. Who are the 3 people? One is Jambavan, one is Hanuman, and the third one is Vibhishan. Anyone knows why only these 3 were conscious? What's so special about the 3 of them? Okay, I'll tell you. I know it's a very random question, so I'll answer it. The reason the 3 of them were conscious is because, first of all, Jambavan was the very son of Brahma. Okay, so Brahmastra cannot do anything to him. Then, how about Vibhishana and Hanuman? Both of them had boons. Vibhishan got this boon that Brahmastra cannot do anything to him when he performed austerities, right? The 3 brothers, Ramana, Kumbhakarna, and Vibhishan, they performed different austerities, and Vibhishan had some boons that Brahmastra cannot do anything to him, and he will stand by the side of religion. He will always be dharmic. That is the boon that he requests from Brahma. So Brahma gives him that boon. Actually, Brahma himself voluntarily tells him, Brahmastra will not do anything to you. And then the third person is Vibhishana, Jambavan, and who's Hanuman. Hanuman, when he was young, you all know the story that he went to eat the fruit, and then he was struck by Indra's Vajra weapon, and then he fell down, and then all the demigods came and gave him boons. That time, Brahma also gave him the boon that Brahmastra cannot do anything to him. When he was arrested by Indrajit in Lanka, at that time he willingly submitted, and he acted like as if he was arrested. Okay, but actually nothing can do. Now, no Brahmastra can actually affect Hanuman. So even now, though they were at a distance, still the effect could have been there. But these three people were very much conscious. Jambavan was somewhat conscious because he was in the immediate target and he was a little old. Okay, so that is the only difference. So these three people are the ones who are planning the situation now. So at this time, Jambavan gives instructions to Hanuman, and Hanuman, he decides to fly to Aushadaki to get the herbs. Now Hanuman, he climbs on Trikuta mountain on which Lanka is situated. He presses, he increases in size, just like how he crossed the Indian Ocean, right? So the same formula, he increases in size, he presses down the mountain with his foot, and then he takes off flight. He flies, he crosses the Indian Ocean, he crosses the entire Bharatavarsha area, and he goes, because Jamban tells him, first you will find Mount Rishabha, then you will find Mount Kailasha. Between Mount Rishabha and Mount Kailasha is this specific mountain that has these herbs. It will be like a flame. It will be very, very bright and beautiful. You can easily identify this mountain. So hearing all these instructions, he goes, first he crosses Mount Rishabha, then he sees Mount Kailasha, and he sees that there is a mountain situated between these two. And this particular mountain is very, very effulgent. He goes there, but he's not able to identify the specific herbs that have been asked. Okay, now what are these different herbs? These herbs are Mrita Sanjeevani, the first herb. Okay, this is capable of restoring the dead person into life. What is the herb? Mrita Sanjeevani. Sanjeevani means to live forever, right? So Mrita Sanjeevani, a dead person can be brought to life. That is one herb that Jambavan tells him to bring. The second one is Vishalya Karini. Vishalya Karini means it can actually, if you apply that medicine, it can extract the weapons that have gone inside your body. Like if there is a spear that is stuck inside you, you're unable to remove it. If you apply Vishalya Karini and you take it out, you can easily extract it. The next one is Suvarna Karini. If there are dislodged parts, if the hand has been cut off or leg has been cut off, if you add this particular herb called a Suvarna Karini, golden herb, it will rejoin the parts. And then, Sandini is the herb that is capable of rejoining a fractured bone. Suvarna Karini is to restore the original complexion. Because when one is unconscious and one is about to leave the body, you will see that the body becomes pale. Suvarna Karini rejuvenates the entire person and he becomes golden and effulgent. So Suvarna Karini is to rejuvenate the complexion, and Sandini is to actually attach parts and make it functional. Okay, so if the hand or leg or if you have a fractured bone, it will all be healed. So these are the different herbs that is present on this particular mountain. And in some places, this mountain is also called as Mount Mahodara. In the next episode, we'll see that it's specifically mentioned as Mount Mahodara. Here, it's generally called as Aushadagiri, or the mountain that has the herbs. Okay. So now Hanuman, he goes there, and he's of course the son of wind god, so he can really fly fast, and he goes there and he tries to find the herbs. But the herbs, understanding, these are all a little divine and magical, okay? So the mountain itself, understanding that someone has come to ransack all its property, it kind of hides its precious property, which are the herbs. So Hanuman, who has flown for such a long distance, he begins walking, in all directions, trying to find these herbs, but he's unable to find the herbs. Obviously, he's not a botany student, right? So he doesn't know all the details of all these herbs and identification and all that. And there's no time more than anything else. There's no time to think about which herb looks like what and, how to gather these herbs. So Hanuman, using his intelligence and using his strength during difficult circumstances, it's also a lesson for all of us that when we are in a very difficult situation, we should just calm down, use our intelligence and our strength and act accordingly in surrender with the Lord, because Hanuman, he offers a prayer, he surrenders to the Lord, he uses his intelligence and his strength, and he decides to lift the entire mountain and take it there because he's unable to identify the herbs. So that is when, with the strength, he actually challenges the mountain. Oh, mountain, you're not ready to reveal the herbs to me. Look what I can do. And he just scraps out the entire mountain. He carries it, and that's the picture, famous picture you see of Hanuman carrying the mountain, Sanjeevani mountain, and he flies across the shore of the Indian Ocean, and he comes to Lanka. So now, as he's entering Lanka and as he's coming near the war field itself, the Vanaras, imagine crores of Vanaras are now unconscious, okay, including Ram and Lakshman. As they are smelling the herbs, okay, it has such strong fragrance that as it was coming, everyone was coming back to life. Everybody, they came back to life, and everyone could stand up, and everyone was healed. So whatever problems they had, if they were unconscious, they were healed. If they were about to leave their body, their life was revived. Or if they are dead also, their life was revived. If they had fractured bones, it was all set. Everything was perfect. Okay, Mrita Sanjeevani was also there. It can even bring the dead to life. So the entire Vanara army, whoever died in the battlefield also came back to life. But what happened to Ravana's army? Ravana thought he's very intelligent. Okay, this is what happens when you try to be over smart. What he did was he gave a specific order that as and when the Rakshasas were killed, he was told that he gave instructions to his people that the bodies of these Rakshasas should be dumped into the ocean. Why did he do that? Because he didn't want the Vanaras to assess the strength of the Rakshasas. So if Ravana thought, if he showed that very few Rakshasas have actually died, if very few bodies of the Rakshasas were present in the battlefield and the bodies of Vanaras were more, the Vanaras would get discouraged, thinking that they are very inferior and the Rakshasas are very, very strong. So this was his political strategy. So what he did was he gave instructions that to silently dispose the bodies of Rakshasas into the ocean. So when the Sanjeevani mountain was coming, the Vanaras who were dead on the battlefield, they smelled it and they came back to life. But unfortunately, because of Ravana's crazy political strategy, the Rakshasas whose bodies were disposed inside the ocean could not come back to life. So now the ratio of the Vanaras increased over the ratio of the Rakshasas. So now they come back to life and they began to fight. This is episode 2. First one is Nagastra episode. Second one is Brahmastra released by Indrajit. Okay. So both these weapons, Nagastra and Brahmastra, were released by Indrajit. First time, Garuda came to the rescue. Second time, Hanuman flew, he went, he got Aushadagiri, rescued. Okay. Third, this is the pastime that is mentioned in Caitanya Bhagavata, the release of the Shakti Shela weapon by Ravana. So after Indrajit was killed by Lakshmana, eventually Indrajit, he had a boon that if he would do a Nikumbila sacrifice, a sacrifice to that mother goddess who's present in Lanka, and if he would take the chariot and go into the battlefield, he would be unconquered. So he had a boon like that, and that's how he was releasing all these very, very powerful weapons, and he was coming back very successful. In fact, if you read the Uttarakhand of the Ramayana, you will see that the sages were more worried about Indrajit over Ravana. Even Ravana, they thought he can be conquered, but they were very worried about Indrajit because Indrajit was very powerful, very, very powerful. He was more powerful than Ravana, according to the sages in the Uttarakhand, because he had special boons. So, but somehow, Lakshmana, he used his intelligence and he managed to stop Indrajit from performing this Nikumbila sacrifice on a particular day. And Lakshmana stands and he conquers Indrajit. It's not Rama who conquers Indrajit, it was Lakshmana. He was the hero actually. So anyway, Indrajit was done. Okay, he was conquered. Now it was time for Ravana to come to the battlefield. Now Ravana, it was quite a havoc when he entered the battlefield because he was extremely powerful and he also had many special divine weapons. So some of the Vanaras, first he started attacking the Vanaras in the battlefield as he entered. And specifically, before he took on Lakshmana, it is mentioned that he dealt with Neela. Neela, interestingly, is the son of the fire god. Nala Nila, you've heard of them, right? Nal Neel, the ones who built the bridge, right? Nala is the son of the architect, divine architect Vishwakarma. Who's Nila? Nila is the son of Agni Deva. So he's the commander-in-chief. Always Agni becomes the commander-in-chief. Like, for example, who's the commander-in-chief for the Devas? It is Kartikeya. Okay, Kartikeya is also always identified with Agni, with Mars or Agni. So similarly, a commander-in-chief should have these qualities. Okay, should have a lot of fire in him. So like that, Neela was the commander-in-chief of the army itself, of Ram's army. Of this particular Vanara scene, the commander was Neela. So a king would come and he would fight with the commander-in-chief. He began fighting with Neela. And you know what? Astra, he used to render Neela unconscious. He used the Agni Astra, the Agni Astra. So he was very intelligent, Ravana. He used the Agni Astra and Neela was rendered unconscious. And at this time, when Lakshmana saw that the commander-in-chief was unconscious, Lakshmana rushed in front of Ravana. And Ravana was waiting for this opportune moment. He wanted to fight with two people. One is Lakshman, the other one is Ram. So he was very happy to face Lakshman and he said, oh, I've been waiting for this exact moment. I'm so happy that I'm seeing you face to face now, fight with me. So Lakshman said, okay, stop boasting. Now start shooting your arrows. There was a very, very intense fight that ensued between Lakshman and Ravana. Ramana was fighting, he was releasing several arrows, and some of these arrows are very celebrated. If you read about Ravana, you would know that one of the famous arrows that Ravana had is called as Balla, the Balla arrow. He had Kura, Ardhachandra, Karni. These are all very divine arrows that he obtained by performing several austerities. He had obtained these from demigods. So he started shooting all these arrows, but Lakshmana could very easily destroy these arrows. So Lakshmana was also very powerful. Continuously started destroying all these arrows. And when Ravana saw that these arrows were destroyed, he invoked the Kalagni Astra, which was given to him by Brahma. So especially the astras given by Brahma were seen to be very difficult to counteract. The other demigods also, somehow or the other, they were destroyed. But Brahma's weapons are very difficult to destroy. So first he released the Kalagni Astra. So when he released the Kalagni Astra, Lakshmana became unconscious for some time because it was a very, very severe weapon. But somehow he gathered his consciousness and he began to fight again. So now at this point, when Ravana realized that Lakshmana was actually coming back to consciousness and he was giving a good fight, he decided to release the final astra, the most powerful astra he had, which is the Shakti weapon. That was also given to him by Brahma. So he releases the Shakti weapon, the Shakti Shela astra, and at this point in time, Lakshmana swooned and he fell down. It pierced through his entire body and he fell down completely unconscious. And seeing this, everyone was really, really worried because the Shakti weapon is so powerful that it is very difficult to come back to life after you're struck by the Shakti weapon. So everyone thought this is the end, and Ramachandra couldn't believe what happened. And he comes and he gets so angry. Immediately he tries to dislodge the weapon from Lakshmana's body. But still Lakshmana has not yet come back to complete consciousness, but he has hope that Lakshmana will survive, at least because the weapon is now out of his body. Ramachandra, he takes on Ravana, and there's a very, very intense fight that happens between Ravan and Ram at this point in time, and Ram is all furious because his brother is being hit. So there's a very intense war, so much so that Ravana was so bewildered at one point, he didn't know how to fight back. All his weapons were gone. And looking at that, Ram says, go today and come back tomorrow, because he doesn't want to fight with a person who's not equipped properly. So Ram was holding on Dharma even at that point in time. So he tells Ravana, I think you're very tired today. All your weapons are gone. You go home and come back tomorrow. And then he goes back to the Vanara scene and he sees so many people are affected because of Ravana. And he's very worried for Lakshmana as well, that Lakshmana is being struck by the Shakti weapon. At this time, Sushena, who's the doctor, he's conscious now. So he tells, go to Aushadagiri. So Hanuman's second task, again he goes to Aushadagiri. 2 times he goes in Ramayana. And interestingly, Hanuman is a very responsible citizen. It is not that he, the first time when he came, he brought Aushadagiri and he left it there in Lanka. No. After everyone was revived, all the Vanaras were revived, he went and put it back in its place. Okay. And then he came back. He didn't litter that area or something. I mean, because it's not the property of Lanka. So he had to return it back. He returned it to Aushadagiri. So this time when the Shakti Shela weapon was released, it was not that Aushadagiri was nearby and he could come and administer medicine. So Sushena, the doctor, told him, please go back, bring the same Aushadagiri and administer medicine again to Lakshmana. So Hanuman goes on a second trip. Again, he flies all the way and then he brings this medicine and then Sushena administers it near the nose of Lakshmana and Lakshmana is revived after the Shakti weapon. Ramayana discusses only so much. That is Valmiki's Ramayana. But we are going to see some very interesting story very quickly as to what Nitai did. He just didn't enact so much, he enacted something more. And then we'll see references for that. Okay. So let's see what happened. This is, again, as far as Valmiki Ramayana is concerned, Hanuman goes, he brings back the mountain, the medicine is administered in the nose of Lakshmana by Sushena and story over. But then what happened here? Ara ekasishupate tapasvira veshe palamula diya hanumare ashamshe. Another boy dressed as renunciate welcomed Hanuman with fruits and roots. When does this boy welcome? When he goes near Aushadagiri to bring the mountain after the Shakti Shela Vetan. Okay. At that time, there is some boy who's dressed as a mendicant and he's offering fruits to Hanuman. And let's see what Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur has to say about this particular enacting, because this is not there in the Valmiki Ramayana. Hanuman's conversation with Ravana's demon uncle Kalanemi, who was dressed as an ascetic, and Hanuman's fight with the crocodile demons and Gandharvas are not found in the original Ramayana written by Valmiki. This applies to verses 72 through 86. Okay. So we are reading the verses 72 through 86 that is not there in Valmiki Ramayana. And with some research, I found out it is there in Adhyatma Ramayana, which is considered as a part of Brahmanda Purana. That's where the story comes from. And that's what Nitai is enacting. Okay. So first when Hanuman goes towards the mountain, there he finds an ascetic who offers him fruits and roots. Who is this ascetic? This ascetic is Kalanemi. He is the uncle of Ravana and he's up to some mischief. Okay. Raha bapa dhanya kara amara ashrama bhada bhagye asi mile to mahe na jana. He said to Hanuman, my dear sir, please stay and grace my ashram. It is a great fortune to meet such a great person as you. Hanumana bhole ka raya gora vechaiba asi bhara chahira rahi bhare na paribha. Hanuman replied, I must go and complete my important mission. I would like to come, but I cannot delay. Okay, because one has karya. Karya gaurave refers to the importance of one's duties. Same thing happened when Hanuman was flying towards Lanka in search of Sita. That time Mainaka Parvat offered invitation, but Hanuman said, no, I am on an important mission. I don't have time to waste. So he says the same answer here also. Shuninacha Ramachandra Anuja Lakshmana Shakti Sheletan Re Mursha Karila Ravana. You must have heard that Lakshman, the younger brother of Ramachandra, has been rendered unconscious by the Shakti Shela weapon of Ravana. So he tells this to the mendicant that he's in a hurry. Atayeva yai ami Khanda mandana aushada anile rahe tanhana jivana. Therefore, I am going to Gandhamandana Parvat to bring the medicine. Only then he will revive. Gandhamandana Parvat is also in the Himalayan area. The renunciate then said, if you must go, first take bath and eat something, then you may go. Tapasvi bolaya yadi yaiba nishchaya snana kari kichu khai kara vijaya. So he invites him, he tells, no, you can go, but first eat something, take bath, eat something, then you can go. Nityananda Sikshaya Balake Katha Kahe Vismita Haya Sarva Loke Chahi Rahe. The two boys repeated whatever Nityananda had instructed him. Therefore, everyone gazed at them in astonishment as they listened to their conversation. So Nityananda Prabhu, he had given him instructions. So the boy dressed as Hanuman should go there. There should be a mendicant place there. He should come and offer invitation. And these boys were seriously enacting all of this while Nitai was unconscious, because they knew that if they don't do the role properly, the director will not get up. Tapasvira bole sarovare gela snane jale taki arasi shodarila charane. Then, on the request of the renunciate, Hanuman went to take bath in the lake, whereupon another boy in the lake grabbed hold of his feet. Another twist and turn in the story. Who's that another boy? Kumbhire Rarupagari Yaya Jale Lana Hanuman Sishu Ane Kutile Janiya. The boy playing the role of a crocodile tried to pull Hanuman into the water, but Hanuman pulled the boy to the shore. So this was the plan of Kalanemi. Kalanemi decided, he forced Hanuman to go and take bath in the lake, and there was a crocodile who was trying to gulp Hanuman. Okay, so that was the trick that he was playing. He was ordered by Ravana to actually trick Hanuman so that Hanuman could not bring the Aushadati. So there was another boy dressed in the lake who was trying to pull the feet of the boy who was dressed as Hanuman. Katokshani ranakari jiniya kumbhira asire ke Hanumana aramahavira. After a short fight, Hanuman defeated the crocodile. Then Hanuman returned to the renunciate ashram. He saw a mighty warrior. Okay. So after defeating the crocodile, Hanuman was released and he went on. Ara eka sishudhari rakshase rakhache Hanumane khai bhare yaya thara pache. The boy dressed as a Rakshasa then attempted to swallow Hanuman. He challenged, you have defeated the crocodile, but now will you defeat me? I will eat you. Then who will revive you, Lakshman? So the Rakshasa, he tried to devour Hanuman. Then what happened? Hanuman bole. Tora Hanumana bole tora Ravana pukura tara re nahi vastu buddhi tui paladura. Hanuman replied, you Ravana is a dog. I consider him most insignificant. Get out of my way. Calls him a dog and asks him to move out. E mata doi jana haya gagar gala gali seshe haya chula chuli tabe kila kili. In this way, the first two exchanged some harsh words, and then they began pulling each other's hair, and they finally began striking with each other's fists. The word Galaga Gali means to using foul language on each other, and Chula Chuli means pulling each other's hair. The word Kila Kili means pulling each other. So what happened? The series of events is that he goes, he takes bath, and the crocodile pulls him, and then he gets rid of the crocodile. He comes back when the Rakshasa tries to devour him, and then he stops the Rakshasa, and they start fighting with each other, and they start pulling each other's hair. I will later I'll send in the group maybe. I'll show you pictures of stone carvings of this entire pastime. It's very beautiful. How the crocodile devours the Hanuman, then how they pull each other's hair. All of this is there in stone depictions in many temples. I'll send that. It's very beautiful. Katokshana se Kautuke Janina Rakshase Gandamadane Asihaila Praveshe. After defeating the demon, Hanuman approached the Gandamadana hill. Tahi Gandharvera Veshi Dhari Sishughana Ta Sabar Sange Yukta Haya Katakshana. There Hanuman fought with some boys who were dressed as Gandharvas. Now next problem, Hanuman had to not only fight with the crocodile, not only fight with the Rakshasa, now he had to also fight with Gandharvas. Yutte Parajaya Kari Gandharvera Gana Shire Kari Anilena Gandha Mandana. After defeating the Gandharvas, finally Hanuman took the Gandhamadana hill and headed to Lanka. Within the Gandhamadana hill is this Mount Mahodhara or the Aushadapuri. Another boy playing the role of doctor remembered Lord Rama as he held the medicine to Lakshmana's nose. So after the mountain comes, game is not over. They have to pick up a herb and then go and put it in Lakshmana's nose. The boy playing the role of Sushena, the doctor of the monkeys, imitated him by holding 4 medicines grown on Gandhamadana hill. What are these? Vishalyakarani, Suvarnakarani, Sanjeevakarani, and Sanjini. We spoke about these different herbs. Okay, what they do. So these herbs were brought in front of Lakshmana's nose. नित्यानंदा महाप्रभु उठिला काने देखी पिता माता आदि हासे सर्व जाने. So now Nityananda Prabhu, after inhaling these herbs, he wakes up, and everyone around Nityananda Prabhu, his father, his mother, and everyone else, they smiled with relief. So Nityananda Prabhu, he was really involved in this character, and everyone smiled with relief. Kole karilane, kore karilane giya. Hadai Pandita Sakala Balaka Hailena Hasita. Hadai Pandit embraced the son, and all the boys became overjoyed. Sabe bole Bapa Iha Kotaya Shikila. Hasi bole Prabhu Moraye Sakala Leela. Everyone asked, "My dear son, where have you learned all this?" The Lord smiled and said, "Oh, these are my pastimes." Pratama Vayasa Prabhu Ati Sukumara Pola Haite Karo Chitta Nahi Edi Bara. In his early childhood, the Lord was most attractive. No one wanted to let him go from their laps. Everyone loved him tight. Sarvaloke Putra Haita Bhada Sneha Vase Chinnite Na Pare Keha Vishnu Maya Vase. Everyone had more affection for Nityananda than they had for their own sons, but no one could recognize him due to the influence of Vishnu's illusory energy. No one could understand that this is not different from Lakshman. That's how he's able to perform all these pastimes so perfectly. Hena mate sishu kala haite Nityananda Krishna lila vina arana kare ananda. In this way, from the beginning of his childhood, Nityananda had no happiness other than enjoying the pastimes of Krishna. Pita Mata Grahachari Sarva Shishu Gana Nityananda Samhati Virahe Sarva Krishna. All of his friends left their parents to constantly sport in the company of Nityananda. So everyone just wanted to take Nityananda Prabhu's association. That's the only thing everyone desired. Te sada Sishura Paya Bahu Namaskara Nityananda Sangeyana Ye Matavihara. I offer respectful, repeated obeisances unto the feet of those boys who enjoyed the association of Lord Nityananda. Very similar to how Shukadeva Goswami says in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Krita Punja Kritam, what is that? The verse that talks about the punya that these boys who were cowherd boys were playing with Krishna had attained. How many lifetimes of credits they must have had to be playing with Krishna. So similarly, here Vrindavan Das Thakur, he says, I offer my repeated obeisances at the feet of those boys who enjoyed the sweet pastimes of Lord Nityananda, who played with him. Hey Matta Krida Kari Nityananda Raya Sisho Haite Krishna Leela Vina Nahi Bhaya. Thus, from the childhood, Nityananda had no interest other than enacting the various pastimes of Lord Sri Krishna. And the final verse for today, Anantera Leela ke ba pare kahi bare tanha na krupaya yena mathas pure yare. Who can describe the pastimes of Lord Ananta? They are only manifest to one who has received his mercy. Lord Ananta is constantly chanting the different pastimes of Lord Sri Krishna, okay, with his thousands of fools. Now, who can chant the pastimes of Lord Ananta, who is not different from Lakshmana, who is not different from Nityananda? Only a person who has surrendered unto him and who has received a fraction of his mercy can actually understand these different pastimes that Lord Nityananda has constantly performed in his lifetime, especially his childhood pastimes. So we'll stop here, and from tomorrow we will see how Nityananda leaves home and the different yatra places Nityananda visits. Sorry for going half an hour over time. I'm very, very sorry about that. But if you have any questions, comments, realizations, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. Jai, very, very beautiful class, Mataji. You explained all the verses so beautifully. Just amazing. Very sweet and caring class. Thank you so much. Dear devotees, if you have any questions or realizations, please go ahead at this time.
Thank you, Shivani Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Preethi Vilasini Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Very, very beautiful class, Mataji. Thank you so much for a detailed explanation. Mataji, I have a question. Why Vibhishana, right? Vibhishana has used Jai Raghunatha. What does that mean? Why he have used that word?
Raghava?
Yeah. Raghava. Sorry.
Because though Lord Ramachandra is the Supreme Lord, it is not that he is inaccessible. He has very nicely become the son of, he is incarnated in the Raghu dynasty, giving his association very easily. He's become very accessible to the devotees. Right? When Krishna descends to this world, he's very accessible, right? People can go and visit him and see him and personally take shelter of him. So he specifically calls him Raghava. You're so accessible to me, so please give me shelter, like that. Okay.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you so much for detailed explanation. But then, Mataji, when Hanuman was caught with this Brahmastra, when he was in Lanka, he almost like his body is like, unable to move, and all that is being, is enacted by Hanuman, or it was like,
yes,
like that Hanuman had happened.
Yeah, he
just acted like that.
Nothing can do. Brahmastra cannot affect him.
Okay, got it, Mataji. Thank you so much.
It's because he wanted to get audience with Ravana. Until he gets an audience with Ravana, he cannot enact the rest of the pastimes, right? He wanted to personally go and see Ravana and talk to him. So he acted like as if he was bound by the Astra, and he went inside the palace of Ravana and got a one-on-one audience with Ravana.
Yeah, got it. His plan to go inside. Yeah, Mataji, the another thing is Shakti weapon was used 2 times. When Ravana used that weapon, Lakshmana fall down, right?
The Shakti weapon was used only once. It was used by Ravana. Only it was used on Lakshmana.
But then first time when Lakshmana fall down, how did he fall down?
Lakshmana. So there are totally 3 weapons. First time is the Nagastra. That was released by Indrajit. Okay. That time both Rama and Lakshmana, both of them fell down. Garuda came, rescued, game over. Second weapon that was released was Brahmastra. Brahmastra again was released on everybody. All the Vanaras were swooned and they were all fallen. Only 3 people were awake. The 3 people we spoke why they were awake. Jambavan, Vibhishan, and
Hanuman.
That is the second round. Third, that weapon was also released by Indrajit. Brahmastra, Indrajit had the wound. Okay, so he released. And everyone was worried about Indrajit. Actually, all the sages were only worried about Indrajit. They knew Ravana can be conquered by Ram. They were only worried about Indrajit. But Lakshmana conquered Indrajit. It's very interesting, Ramayana, how the events unfold. Then the third time, Ravana comes into the war field and he releases the Shakti weapon on specifically Lakshmana. And this time only Lakshmana swoons. Rama doesn't. Nothing happens to Rama. Okay.
Got it, Mataji. Got it. Thank you so much, Mataji. Very beautiful class. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, I think 2 more hands.
Yeah, Sudevi is raising her hand. Sudevi, go ahead.
Hare Krishna.
Your voice is breaking, Sudevi.
Now is it? Yeah.
Devi, we can't hear you. I don't know if it's only me.
Yeah, we can't hear her, Mataji. Sudevi, it's breaking and it is also low, very low. Do you want to rejoin and ask your question? Okay, maybe she's going to rejoin.
Okay. Anyone else?
Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances, all glories to Srila Prabhupada and Shri Guru and Shri Garanga. Mataji, what a beautiful class. It was so nectarian. I had to unfortunately leave in like the middle, but from what I've heard about how you describe the pastimes of Ramayana with relating to Lord Nityananda, and it was just very beautiful and nectarian, and you know the importance of the taking shelter, and how Vibhishan was telling the good advice, but you know when you're in such a consciousness like Ravana, then you can't even hear, and you can't even just understand. It was just so beautiful how you connected everything. So thank you so much, Lord. Hanumanji's pastimes were so beautiful too. So thank you so much for such a nectarian class, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Megha Mataji, for your very valuable association. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances of glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Thank you, Mataji. Very beautiful class. I especially like the Kila Kili and Chula Chuli. Before you read you read the translation, I was already laughing. It would be so funny to see Hanuman and Ramana doing Chula Chuli. When we were younger, me and my sister used to do that, and my mom used to use the same word. That's why I know that word. Like, you know, pull each other hair. When we will get really mad at each other, we'll start pulling each other's hair. And then my mom would say, just stop chula chuli. I mean, in Bengali, she would say. So that reminded me. But overall, such a sweet. And the best thing of your all classes, Mataji, that you are so much absorbed. You have literally, for me, if I have to give a class, I have to keep on looking into the paper. But you have like just, you know, taken it in and just pouring it out. So that's the most beautiful part of your classes, Mataji. Thank you so much. Very grateful for your association, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Anuradha Mataji. Thank you so much for all the support you're giving on.
Hare Krishna Mataji, I loved the class. Is this better?
Yes, yes. Go ahead.
I love the class, and I like the points how you said Nityananda Prabhu was completely absorbed in the mood of Lakshmana, and how the demon he tricked Lakshmana, tricked Hanuman completely. He said he kept everywhere Rakshasas, and he tried to stop Hanuman and keep Lakshmana how he was unconscious. And Mataji, he said that Vibhishana said that accept me immediately. So he said that we should surrender immediately. So is there any result, like if we don't surrender immediately and we think later I'm going to do it?
The idea is that, you know, nothing is guaranteed any minute, right? The purpose of human life is to actually take up Krishna consciousness and surrender to the Lord. So, you know, if we keep postponing this thing, you know, there is no guarantee that there is a tomorrow. You know, it's like that. So it is like, for example, I'll tell you one story that comes to my mind about this. There was a great saint by the name Kurish. He was a disciple of Sripad Ramanujacharya. He had two sons, and he wanted to actually initiate his sons as soon as possible so that they could take up the process of Krishna consciousness. He wanted to initiate. But then, you know, his boy was young and he was going out to play. So he called out to his boy and he said, wait, let me initiate you right away because we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. This world is so unpredictable, right? So we should utilize this human form of life. So let's not wait. You know, he said that and he immediately initiated the child. So like that, then there should be a sense of urgency to utilize this human form of life in Krishna consciousness. That's what it means. So when we decide we are going to surrender, we're going to take a guru, we're going to go for it. there is I don't know, I think there's one Mataji not called. She's not here today because she's in India. There's one Mataji, Panishwari Lakshmi Mataji. That's what happened to her. She went and she spoke to her spiritual master, Jayaprakash Swami Maharaj, and she said, please accept me. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. She went in that urgency because she didn't want to lose an opportunity. So we should be like that. Okay? That's how one surrenders. One should not think, okay, I'll postpone, and it's like it never happened. I have done that mistake, I know. I would postpone a lot. But then the teachings of the Ramayana tell us that we should not keep postponing. Okay? When the time is correct, of course you're a kid, but as you grow up, you would be told when would be the right time, and you should go in haste, and you should surrender.
Yes, Mataji, I understood. If we postpone too much, then we'll postpone, then we'll become life at home, and then there's no time.
Yeah, that's what happened to me too. I kept postponing so many years, and then the Matajis, they scolded me and they told me, you cannot do this. This is not the mood of surrender. And then they set me right, and I went and took initiation.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Shri Guru and Gauranga. Mataji, such a beautiful class, and you just took everyone in that pastime of Ramayana, all the Hanumanji, Sugriv, everything, the pastime, whatever they did, Indrajit did Hanuman, the unconscious, Lakshmana unconscious and everything. And you connected these all things with Nityanand Prabhu, whatever he is playing right now in this Caitanya Bhagavata. So it was very wonderful and beautiful. I like to hear all more and more from you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Yashamati Mataji, for your association and the very dedicated services that you're doing for all of us. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hi Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Wonderful Mataji. Beautiful. All these pastimes are really, like when you read through in the, you feel that yes, these are so wonderful, and we are going through it again. So, and the way you are narrating it, like, yes, you are definitely like totally immersed into it for sure. So, very nice, Mataji, very nice. I remember this. I think I just mentioned about this when you were saying when I was giving that class, and I was waiting like I don't know who will get this verse, and it's so amazing to hear from you about this verse. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Sita.
Wonderful. You're
very nice to see you.
You're superb, Mataji. You're gifted. Thank you for your association, Mataji.
Thank
Hare
you
Krishna.
for your association, Mataji, and your blessing.
Hare.
हरे कृष्ण माता जी, कोटि कोटि दंडवत प्रणाम। श्रील प्रभुपाद, श्रील गुरुदेव की जय, गोपीनाथ की जय। माता जी, एज यूजुअल माता जी इतनी अच्छी तरह आप लीला एक्सप्लेन करते हो कि सुनते सुनते अश्रुधारा बहती थी, क्योंकि पापा भी ऐसे ही इन्वॉल्व हो जाते हैं। आप और कीर्तिदास सुंदरी माता जी, एज ललितांगी माता जी, जब आप कथा श्री चैतन्य भागवत से सुनाते हैं और श्री भागवत रामायण श्री बृहद भागवतम से सुनाते हैं माता जी, बस अभी सुनते ही जाए। एंड वो एक्सप्रेशन आपके मतलब हम तो माता जी इतने छोटे से कीड़ी के पैर जितने वैष्णव हैं, पर माता जी इतनी अच्छी तरह विभीषण, all the characters teach us a lesson, माता जी, whether it's विभीषण जी और रावण, लक्ष्मण जी, Shri Nityananda, and whether it's Hanumanji, the mood, how to serve Lord Krishna and Srimati Shri Radharani, they teach us a lesson, Mataji. Hari Hari Gauranga, Koti Koti Dandavat Pranam, Jai Jai Nityananda, Jai Jai Gauranga. ऐसे आप अंदर इन्वॉल्व हो जाते हो कि हमें लीला में लेके जाते हो माता जी। श्रील प्रभुपाद, श्रील गुरुदेव की जय, गोपीनाथ की जय। थैंक यू माता जी। हरे कृष्ण।
Thank you, Mataji.
My Prabhuji also hearing attentively, Mataji. Jai Jai Nityananda, Jai Jai Gauranga.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Mataji. Very nice to see you and hear from you and get your input. Hare Krishna.
Dear devotees, if there are no more questions or realization at this time, with the permission of Her Grace Preethi Vilasini Mataji and all the assembled devotees, I would like to close the call. Once again, I would like to thank Her Grace Preethi Vilasini Mataji. Thank you so much, Mataji. Such a beautiful nectarian class. It was just so absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much. Jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Shivani Mataji, and thanks to all the devotees.
Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhu cha patitanam pavanebhyo
Pavanebhyo
vaishnavyo namo namo.
Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
Ananta Vrashmin ki
Anantakoti
jai, Ramacharya
Vrashmin ki
Das Thakur ji
jai.
ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Chaitanya Bhagavata Ji Khanda class ki jai, Our Grace Preethi Vilasini Mata ji ki jai.
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 Thank you very much. Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Mataji. Hare
All
Thank you,
Krishna.
Mataji. Hare
pranam to
Krishna.
all.
Dandavat
Hare
pranam to
Krishna.
everyone.
Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Wonderful class. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Thank you everyone for joining today's class. We'll meet tomorrow. Hari Bol.
Hari Bol.